The following is a special presentation of Ashland University's College of Arts and Sciences.
Hello and welcome to Ashland Alive. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Gretchen Dworznik. On this show, we'll be highlighting newsmakers from around Ashland County who are making a difference from business and organizations. On today's show, we've got Dr. Doug Marrah, who is the Superintendent of Ashland City Schools, and he's joining us today to talk about the recent bond issue that just got passed in November.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. What an exciting time for us to be working on a project like this and really for the community and all of the Ashland Arrows.
Well, take me a little bit through some of the history. This wasn't an easy issue to get past. There's several times it got shot down, so give us a little bit of that history working up to it.
Right, well, the district had worked on this 7 different times, and really in the recent history, really been 3 different opportunities. And right when I was hired was back in May of 2011, and soon, within a few days, there was a high school was the main piece of the bond issue, and that did not pass, and then the board decided to come back, and they asked me about it, and we talked, and we came back and tried again that summer in August to pass it on the high school, and it didn't pass again. And as I started talking with people, really the feeling was Ashland is a practical community. Be really careful what you ask for. We really need a middle school. Look at our building. That's what we need. That's what we should be looking at. So we started to talk about it, and then we came up with a plan over the next, really that school year of what that could look like, and then how we could also get a middle school that was very close to our high school in terms of proximity and opportunities for students that are younger students, a 6-8 middle school really on the campus of our high school. And then that kind of took on a life of its own once we really put the plan together, and people were very excited about what we could do with that middle school, and then build a new K-3 building on the Duff Road field, which people have been looking forward to that for years, to have a building on that site too.
What do you think it was about this particular time when it went up that really got residents behind it and really got it to pass?
I think it was that so many people have been to the middle school and attended school there or had been there for events and realized it was in need of repair, it was in need of replacement. It was a building that when we talked about it, it served us well as a community. It's a great facility for us, and for generations people have attended school there, but it was time to move on to build a new school, and I really think that was a big part of it, and changing the plan of that and listening to the community in terms of what their concerns were. And also when you look at our high school's 50 years old, but it looks great when you walk in. The hallways glisten, and the students that come out of Ashland High School, they're high functioning kids. They have great opportunities for college and life beyond high school, and so people see that as having a great when you look at where the facilities, where the athletic fields are, what we do with our arts programs, and so they don't see that high school as being maybe in need of repair or replacement like they do with the middle school. And it's very clear to drive by the middle school. It is a neat building, but it was time, and it did serve us well. So we got very excited, and the community got behind it.
You mentioned feedback from the community. What sort of feedback have you gotten since it's passed?
Well, we did a lot of door-to-door in terms of what our campaign was like, and so at that time we heard from a lot of people, hey, we really need this, we agree that this is the right thing, we didn't vote before, we're voting this time, or we didn't know that this was for the middle school, we're going to vote this time, or we had voted against the high school, now we're voting for the middle school. And now we're in that excitement phase, and people are asking a lot of questions, and whether it's personal conversations or emails or questions through our committees that we have set up to really guide the process for our middle school, our auditorium, our elementary. And so it's really an excitement level for everyone, and the questions are, how soon will it start? How soon will it be finished? And what's it going to look like for our kids? And what are the neat things that they'll be able to do that they don't have at the middle school right now? And really that proximity is a big thing for us, as well as better up-to-date science rooms and classrooms that are acoustically treated, better lighting, and the efficiencies that will be afforded by having everyone together on that campus.
How important was it, or how crucial was it for you guys to get this bond issue passed this time?
Well, it was very important primarily because we were with a timeline with the state of Ohio. The OFCC is our partner in the project, and because we signed on, we had 1 year to pass our issue, and we had, as a group, the board was kind of a position where we were going to go in November. We weren't sure about February, which you almost have to be on the ballot for February before November. The votes even taken or within a couple days, and then we would have had May and then August. So for us, it was great to get started, and also when you look at the rising cost of construction. We needed to start because of our partnership and to try to get in front of that next couple rounds of inflation increases in terms of what it costs to build new buildings.
Do you think you had more communication or better communication with the community this time?
Well, I don't know, since this was the only campaign that I was involved with, I don't know what it was before, but we had a lot of fun and we made a lot of personal contact. We did a lot of we did commercials, we did radio commercials, we did TV, we did everything we could to get the message out that this is what you had told us. You know, when I would talk to the different service groups and talk to people at their morning coffee, they said, hey, this is the right plan. And so I really think we did everything we could personally, and I think maybe it was the message was the right message. I'm not sure that we really did a great job, but we had the right message, and we were lucky to have great people. Our PTO moms were on board. We had a lot of families that were excited about this for their kids and the next generations to come, many generations in terms of the buildings we'll have for our students.
What would you have done if it had not passed? Would you have thrown it right back on the ballot again, or would you have had to make some adjustments, I guess?
Well, you know, I guess I'm glad we're not there. That's the best thing, is I don't have to answer that question. But we probably would have stopped and said, okay, what are the elements that people like and don't like? We would have maybe done minor tweaks, but we really would not have thrown the baby out with the bathwater per se in this. We knew we had the right plan. We knew we couldn't get below the threshold where we were because the state told us in terms of what we were building, it's called a segmented plan if you look at what the OFCC calls it. And so our minimum, we're at the very minimum, or very close to the minimum of what they would allow us to do in terms of a project and still have to be co-funded. So we really couldn't take a whole lot out. The big issue would have been the auditorium, whether or not that would have been on the ballot again. But I have a background in the arts, and so I have bias there, and so I have a lot of ties, and everybody kept saying to me, hey, you've got to do this auditorium, you can't let that go. And so we're really lucky that it did pass in that, I guess, in that package.
Great. Well, yeah, it's absolutely good that you didn't have to think about
right.
what you would do next because it got passed. Absolutely.
It's a great place to be.
Absolutely. Well, up next, we will highlight more about the school district's plans for their expansion now that the bond issue has been passed. You're watching Ashland Alive. Stay with us. Welcome back to Ashland Alive, and thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Gretchen Dworznik, and with me is the Superintendent of the Ashland City Schools, Dr. Doug Marrah, and thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Great to be here.
We spoke in our last segment about getting that bond issue passed and how important that was. So now that you've got it, how are you guys moving forward?
Well, probably the best explanation of this right now is that we probably are like a duck. You know, when your duck's in the water, they're paddling like crazy, but they seem really calm on top of the water. We have all kinds of things we're doing behind the scenes right now with our, in terms of the financial part. You know, we hired a financial person to help guide the bond process, and within that, he was able to save the district and the taxpayers, most importantly over the term of the life, about $1.5 million, $1.6 million. Because of the way that we sold our bonds. We sold a group of notes in December, $10 million worth, and we just recently sold the other $17 million. And by doing that, we saved our taxpayers $1.6 million. So that's a great thing to have because of the process. And I would give credit to that to our team and our board to say, hey, we want to be sure we do everything right. Let's hire a financial person who can guide us before we go to the bond underwriting. That's where we're in the bond underwriting stages. They sell the notes, and then they'll actually do a full sale once all the credit rating and everything is done in April. But right now, they did that and put that together right away. At the same time we were doing that, we were working with our architect approval process, getting the architect approved with the state of Ohio. At the same time we were approving the architect, we were beginning the process to find an owner's agent representative in terms of representing our interests on the construction side of the project. And we're also starting 3 different committees, our elementary, an auditorium, and a middle school committee. So all these things are going on simultaneously. And again, like a duck, no one really knows unless you're in those groups what's going on. And so we are paddling like crazy, but we're trying to stay nice and calm and cool up top and share our success and really start to look at our plans. And the last time we met last week, and our architect presented to the board that we're starting to make that progress in what they call the POR, the program or the requirements. What classrooms will we get in the elementary? What will our art room look like? What classrooms we get in the middle school? Art, music, PE, and how will that be maybe different from our current middle school? And one of the things that's very interesting that one of the people on the committee is Andy Harpster, and Andy Harpster works at Brethren Care, and he was sitting next to me and he said, you know, this building is going to be 2/3 the size of that current middle school because our current middle school is huge, but they base it on the square footage and the number of students you have. And it won't be undersized, it's just we won't have 2 gyms like we have now. And so that's an issue that we're going to have to address. And the classrooms will be better suited for kids, but you may not be able to have a double classroom in some of those classrooms at the middle school now, where years ago they took a wall out that divided 2 small classrooms and made it a big classroom. There are a lot of things that we're working through within our process and the program requirements. Here's what you get. And then the auditorium, because the people of our community decided to fund an auditorium for $3 million, there's not a book because that's really our dollar. And that's an exciting group to work with because everyone who performs in the auditorium has an idea of what should be in there in terms of seats. You know, we're looking at 1,200 seats in that auditorium, which will be fabulous. It'll be a great venue. Our stage and specifics of the size of the stage, we want a large stage. We also want to have an orchestra pit for the musical and be able to have the flexibility that we have now with McDowell and still have great acoustics. So we have a big menu of things we'd like to have, and so far it's been great. It's probably sometimes we get worn out, you know, because we go for about 6 hours for those meetings twice a month to talk about the committees. But the neat part for me is I get re-energized with each group because of their excitement. And we've been to visit a number of auditoriums. We're going to an elementary Wednesday to visit, and then we're going to a middle school next week. So the committees can see what other districts have done in terms of their plans and what do they like or what do they not like, and how can we get the best schools for the next 50 to 100 years for our kids.
What type of timeline are you looking at? Will construction, you know, when could we expect to see construction start on any part of the project?
Well, you know, it's never soon enough. Once you pass that, you know, everybody thinks it should start the next day, but we'll go through our sequence with the Wednesday. We interview the owner's agent. We'll select that of our top 3 finalists with help and input from the state, and then at that point they will come on board and help us put together a very solid timeline. But really our goal is that we'll go through the bidding process, we'll go through and develop all of our documents, go out to bid about December, January, February of next year, and they're going to feel out the best market spot for us, and that is where we can get the construction companies to bid and sharpen their pencils so we get the best deal, and then we're ready to go and go forward and hopefully have all the construction complete by fall of 2015. And what that will look like for our community is that we'll work with our calendar to try to get that summer to finish right around Memorial Day, just before, just after, and then start after Labor Day. And so that'll be a very long summer, but we'll have an extra few weeks in there to get our construction completed, get our teachers moved into the new building and be ready to go. Our auditorium will be slightly earlier because of it being our project. We don't have to jump through as many hoops with the state, but hopefully we can get that open. We're hoping sometime during the 2014-15 spring of the 15 of that school year.
Do you see any specific challenges that you might face throughout this process going, you know, are there any sort of red flags coming up that you know you're going to have to deal with as this process moves forward?
Well, and I'm really lucky because before I came to Ashland, I was able to be involved in the construction project in Minerva, and so I know a lot of things that could happen. So we're able to be maybe a little prepared for that and plan and look at what, you know, if this happens, because when you work with the state, they may come back to us and say, well, we have put together your elementary building, it's over budget, you may have to do this. Well, we've already had conversations about what are the things that we absolutely have to have in every building, and what are the things that we can look at that are negotiable with the state and within our own project. And I guess probably for me, I have a little different view because with our taxpayers paying 59% of it, I think we should have, as I said, you know, maybe we're a majority owner in this project, so we ought to have that as we go through. And so you don't know, but there will be issues that come up with square footage. There'll be issues that come up with maybe as we get later in the project, something that has to change based on a need that whether it's a corner that it just isn't right, and we'll get into maybe some windows and the finishes, but really in general, it'll be pretty smooth because it's new construction. The biggest issues we had was with our high school in Minerva because we were doing a renovation, and that's when you really get caught by surprise. And our homeowners and community members do know that if you buy a newer house, you have fewer problems. If you buy an older house, you'll have that maintenance, and that's really what happens within the process that you're renovating. So for us to be building 2 new buildings and a new auditorium, we should be pretty smooth in terms of that. I really think that for the community, it may be that they're going to look at the building, and like I said, with the middle school, it's not as big. Well, they project that that building should open with about 700 students based on our enrollment projections. Well, if we have 750 students, it will seem cramped, but I think that it'll be pretty accurate, right around 700 students. And so if you looked at it in comparison to our current middle school that was built as a high school, yes, it would seem small. But it will be very nice. It's going to be well built, and we're going to work to get as much building as we can for our kids, as many classrooms, and work with the state to get a plan that meets our needs.
Well, it sounds like a big project, but an exciting project, a kind of an exciting time to be a part of the district.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great time to be an Ashland Arrow. Every time's a good time to be an Ashland Arrow.
Exactly. Well, when we come back, we will talk about Dr. Marrah's vision for Ashland City Schools moving forward into the future. Stay with us.
Ashland University's Journalism and Digital Media program is a vibrant, exciting, and innovative media program. One aspect of the idea that Ashland's Journalism and Digital Media program is unique is the brand new class that we just offered this year. And it's a core class for the university, meaning any student can take this class. And that class is the global impact of social media. For me, it is the best practical experience you can have for a college course.
Welcome back to Ashland Alive. I'm your host, Gretchen Dworznik, and I'm talking with the Superintendent of the Ashland City School District, Dr. Doug Marrah, and we do appreciate you taking time to join us on the program today. We've been talking a lot about how the district is going to move forward with the bond issue and the building of new buildings, but I'd like to touch now on just the future of the district in general. What does the future look like for the Ashland City Schools as you guys move forward?
Well, you know, for all schools in the state of Ohio, we're all going to have the challenges of implementing the new Common Core state standards, and we've worked on that. We started last year, we've worked this year, and then what will follow is the assessments that will be for our kids, and the park assessments that are going to be a challenge. And also, the general population may know about the standards, but they don't know that we're moving to a new evaluation system with the state. It's called the Ohio Teacher Evaluation System, and it's different in terms of how it is monitored by our administrators. It's different in terms of the frequency that every teacher will, in general, be evaluated every year, which now you could be in a cycle where it may be 3 years, 4 years, but it'll be every year, so it's going to be a lot of time that we're going to ask for our administrators to do the evaluation. And so that will be a real challenge for us to do that right, do that correctly, as well as be fair in terms of the time we spend with people, and take care of our staff and make sure that we are following up on the things that they may need help with, and also supporting them. So that's another challenge. We also will continue to have to look at how we're meeting the needs of our students who are identified with disabilities, our students with disabilities, in terms of the model that we offer for co-taught classrooms. That's a special ed teacher and a regular ed teacher in the classroom, helping those kids with their day-to-day academic needs, as well as stretching those kids. I just believe that, you know, our goal needs to be every day that we get the most out of every student, and they're really pushed to reach the maximum potential every day at the end of the school day. And we want to have students that leave the school building worn out, and teachers that say they've done their job well. And in general, I'm so happy with our staff. Our staff works so hard for kids. And when you look at what our day-to-day school looks like at Ashland High School, 70% of our students that graduate from Ashland High School go on to college. Well, we know that within that 30%, we're looking for other opportunities for those students, and we're working with a number of different institutions to add dual credit for students who may not right now say, I can't wait to go to college, but we want to find other classes. We're adding courses in computer design, web design, gaming, that the students that take the class at Ashland High School also get credit for college. And so that will give those students a plan. And because for me, it's really important that when you go to high school, you have 720 days in high school. It goes by quickly. And we want every student to have a plan of what life is like after high school and what their life will be. Because if we don't do that, we're not doing our job. And for me, I can sleep well at night if I know we're helping kids create a plan. But if they're not, then we need to go back and find other ways that we can. We also have a group of students every year that goes to the military. That's a great plan for those students, and we could not respect more what they're doing. But we want to be sure that if they do come back from the military, that we've given them a solid education so they are also marketable in the military and beyond. So really, those three groups of kids we talk about, our students are going to college, our students that aren't sure, getting them more opportunities and more training maybe while they're in school. If they don't go to the JVS or for a program, that we have other plans for them. Because I want all of our students, when they graduate from high school, say, you know what, I've worked hard, what a great experience, and now I'm ready for life after high school and I can't wait.
How difficult it is, or is it, to keep up with the changing demands from the state? It seems like over the past couple of years especially, there's been a lot of changes. You mentioned some of them in terms of reviews and testing. How difficult is it to quickly, sort of implement and keep up with everything that's being passed down to you guys?
Well, I guess it's one of those things that maybe keeps you young or keeps you motivated, but we're lucky because we have great people that work with us. Our teachers are trained to learn things, and our staff in terms of administrators are on top of it and wanting to learn about it. But it's probably more than anything else, it is a moving target, that the state keeps moving the target around, and when they stop that target, our teachers will do a great job hitting that target. So it will stop again here fairly soon, and we'll hit it. But then they'll move it again, and that's part of life and education. It will continue to change and evolve. And when you look at what we're charged to do, and that is to have our students ready for a 21st century workforce, we want to be sure that we're meeting that. And I think that for us to say, well, the way we taught 10 years ago or 20 years ago is sufficient is not true, and our teachers believe that we've got to stretch our students every day.
What are some of the strengths that the district has, you think, that are sort of going to position it to be, really forward-thinking and forward-moving? Well,
we have many AP classes, so our students that are going to college have the AP classes. We also have the dual credit that I shared. That's something that is newer for us that we're working on. We're continuing to work on the online model to offer that for our students and try to keep students in the district that may, in terms of, I know everyone knows that the community schools are growing, and every time a community school student leaves, that their dollars out of our pocket, but their opportunities missed too for kids, because I'm not sure they get the same experience. So we're adding that online. And so we're trying to do a little bit of everything and do the right things for kids and stay focused with our number one goal of those kids having a plan when they leave high school.
What are some of the things that you would like to do to really position the district to be excellent in the years to come?
Well, I think I want to keep supporting our teachers. I want our teachers to know that when they need things, we will provide that. I want them to get the right professional development. I want to give them the right resources so that they can do a great job in the classroom, and that they can finish the day and say, wow, I worked hard today, but it was a great experience because I know my kids are better today. And we need to do some work in our labs. We know our high school labs will need to be updated. That's an important thing for the sciences. And as the sciences grow and our students' interest in the sciences grow, we're going to have to work on that. We're also going to have to work on our technology. We've got to add some more smart boards and the technology that helps our teachers be more effective and more efficient in the classroom. So all those things, all it takes is money, and of course that's not the easiest thing in the world, but we look at that all the time, and we look at what our kids need, and we want them to have an experience that's more similar to what life is in a college environment. That's one of the things we changed in our high school this year by changing our cell phone policy, so students have times that it's red, yellow, or green. Red is you can't use your phone, yellow is with permission, and green is go for it. And so that's part of, we're teaching our students and preparing them, and we're lucky because we can still monitor that and help them if they're not sure make the right decisions with that. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I really think that we're trying to do the right things, and our staff believes in their hearts that that's what they want to do, is have our students be successful, every student that walks in the door when they walk across that stage.
We're talking with the Superintendent of Ashland City Schools, Dr. Doug Marrah, and when we come back, we'll talk about Ohio's new education funding plans might affect the Ashland City Schools. Stay with us.
What makes our journalism and digital media department unique from maybe some of the other colleges and universities in Ohio is that we offer the opportunity for students to get involved. We don't ask them to go off and take their general classes and come back in 2 years. We ask them to get involved from the very first day.
Welcome back to Ashland Alive. I'm your host, Gretchen Dworznik, and if you're just joining us, we're talking with the Superintendent of the Ashland City School District, Dr. Doug Marrah. And again, we always thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. You guys have a lot going on over there, so we appreciate you being able to stop by.
Yes, we do, but I'm always glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
For our final segment, I really wanted to touch on sort of the statewide, everything that's going on across the state in terms of education obviously is going to trickle down and affect your district. So how have these budget cuts that we've been hearing about in the news, how has Ashland's district been affected by those?
Well, there are two elements of it. One, if you go back a few years, we had the stimulus dollars. And basically when the stimulus dollars were put in place, the state knew they had a hole in their budget and they put the stimulus dollars in to fill for that 2-year period. And when we were in a range of $2 million of our stimulus and our personal tangible property both dropped. And so we, over the period of a couple of years, we had a reduction of $2 million. Well, then you add to that students that, and we're funded every student that comes in, it's $5,700 for each student. And students, if they're choosing to go to different schools or community schools or online, we do lose that funding too, so there's a combination. So we're working really hard to try to meet the needs of our families and our students so those students don't leave, but that doesn't fix the hole that's already been created by the state. And it was one of those things that I believe that when they did that, they were trying to do the right thing, but they didn't have any sustainability plan for that. They knew they were going to have a problem. I think they were maybe hoping that the economy would bounce back, but that has not happened. So that really is a big hole in our budget, as it is in all the school districts, and that's why so many districts are continuing to make reductions as they try to line up. And it's very simple. What we look at, it's what is our revenue and what are our expenses, and try to line those two up. And so it's a lot of work, and we're continuing to work on that. I'm not sure that will end anytime soon.
The Ohio Supreme Court has said repeatedly that the way we fund schools is unconstitutional. And Governor Kasich says he has a plan. How might any changes in the way we fund education affect the district?
Well, what I worry about is every time they talk about a new funding solution or plan, if you think back to the lottery money, and a friend of mine always talks about the original lottery dollars, and on the state funding form, which was called, it was the precursor to the SF3, and it said excess lottery funds. And for a couple years, districts did receive extra money, but within 3 years, it was absorbed in the budget, and the state used that money somewhere else. And so what I worry about it, when they talk about casinos, oh, that will fix it. Well, no, the history shows that it will come in and they'll pull more money out and send it to another program. I really think that when you look at their goal from the state is to have a plan that rewards great teachers for doing great things for students. Do I think they have a clear way or a clear plan to do it? No, they don't. But it does make sense. And if you look at what happens in our schools every day, we have a lot of teachers who would be rewarded. Now, what does that look like? Nuts and bolts, I don't know, but I really think that they want to try to move to a model like that. So not an easy solution, and school funding is always very difficult because it's been so reliant on property taxes for so long, and that everybody feels like they have a stake in it, yet we have a large retired population, and many of those people are very dedicated to the city schools, and because their children and grandchildren have gone to school here or are still going to school. So it's a great support base, but we also know that at some point in time, everybody hits that point where you just people can't afford it anymore. So that's the balance that we're in right now, and I'm not sure that the state has a solution either that would say we can fix it if we only do this. And so it'll be interesting to see, but our goal will stick to trying to balance what our revenue and what our expenditures are so that we can continue to offer the best education we can to our students.
You mentioned the idea of the merit-based funding, where pay and then funding for districts would be dependent upon how well those districts are doing. What kind of challenges might that pose for you or your district, or actually would it be a good thing?
Well, it's an interesting concept because it sounds so good when you talk about it, but the reality is if you look at the areas that are tested right now, and one of the things when we were talking about the evaluations earlier, There are growth measures. And the growth measure areas are very easy if you look at reading and math and the grades that are tested. As students move from 3rd through 8th grade, they're tested every year. That's very easy. It'd be very easy to monitor that and say the students did better than we expected, so therefore they're rewarded. But what about the art, music, and PE teacher? What stake do they have in that? Do they deserve something or not? Should they? Should the librarian, who's been providing the materials, we have small group instructors who help with the literacy needs of our students, should they be rewarded? So it becomes the actual practical application is very muddled versus what the concept in terms of, it would be very easy if we were only measuring reading and math, which we test every year.
The issue of school funding is fairly complicated, especially if you're not in the system of education to be a part of that every day. What should the public really know about school funding to get a better understanding of just the dilemma in general?
The most important aspect of funding is they always talk about students that leave a district, and that I've heard so many times from the states, the legislative body say, well, that money's the state money that follows the student. That's really, it's not true. If you're in a district that is 60% local funded and 40% state funded, when that $5,700 leaves, there are local dollars that follow that student. I think that most of the people don't understand that, but in terms of the state officials, in their mind, it is true, because until that, if it's a 60-40 split, until that whole 40% has been split or been spent of the state dollars, yes, the local dollars haven't, but in reality it is, if it's a 60-40, 60% of those local dollars are following that student as they leave every time. And I really think if the public understood that, there'd be an outrage, because our public dollars shouldn't be going to a charter school that's based out of Akron or Cleveland or maybe even another state. And I guess that's a frustrating thing for me, because I really think that we can do the best job for our kids, and I really think that our teachers work very hard to do that every day. And it's unfortunate that they're not sure when students leave where they go, but our teachers' hearts and heads are based on what's best for kids, and they would be very hurt to know that those local dollars, as our taxpayers should be, because we want to do what's best for kids, but if those dollars are flowing out, it's wrong. It shouldn't be that way.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for joining us today on Ashland Alive, and thank you for watching this edition of our show. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can contact the Department of Journalism and Digital Media at Ashland University at 419-289-5139 or jdm@ashland.edu. You've been watching Ashland Alive on AUTV 20. Have a great night.